Major support for Do the Math has been provided by Chevron, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Edison International, Valley Strong Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Bakersfield West Rotary Stroop Family Foundation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, Bakersfield City School District, Kern High School District, and AC Electric Company, with additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
Coming at you from the AC Electric Arena in downtown Bakersfield, the Do the Math Robot Rumble is back for 2020. One more spot in the grand final is up for grabs today between the Rosedale Middle School Bulldogs and the Stockdale Christian Crusaders and their bot, Lucky.
Stockdale Christian!
It's Robot Rumble action today on Do the Math. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to the AC Electric Arena. Devin Rossiter and Tom Anderson, it's time. We're back.
We're back.
It's great to be in for 2020. We're halfway through the first round. We've got two schools already in the grand final. It's Chipman, it's Rio Bravo Greeley, and we're going to have one of our schools joining them today.
Today, yeah. It's really exciting.
You know, it's been interesting so far to see the different design approaches and strategies.
Yeah.
The two teams we've got today seem to have very similar designs and approaches.
They do. And so it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out. So if it actually works and which one actually has the better bot.
Reminder for the competition, how this is going to play out here. You're going to see the cubes on the floor. The goal is to bring those cubes into the zones. They have to be completely in. They can't be in just a little bit.
Yeah.
They can't be tilted over.
They have to be flat on the ground.
We have two zones for each color team. They are able to go into each other's halves of the court.
Yes.
Now, there's also a matter of the color of the cubes. That matters once we start having them lifted up into these baskets,
put them in the basket.
because then they become multipliers.
Correct.
So that's going to be a strategy to keep an eye out for, especially since both of these teams have really just gotten into the habit of being able to lift cubes.
Right.
We'll see if they're tall enough to be able to actually reach
Put
in.
them in the buckets. Yep.
So we are ready to go.
Let's go.
It's going to be Rosedale Middle School and the blue side against Stockdale Christian here with the red. You know, both very similar, but you can definitely some differences. What is the main difference that we should be looking out for between these two bots today?
Well, I'm kind of curious to see the height that they can each get. We'll see how that all works. I know that once you start getting weight out on the end of those arms, it's could be tipping. It could be that they just can't lift them.
You know, one of the things I've noticed too is that the elbows for those lifting arms on both of these robots is not on the arm itself, but connected to the base.
The base, correct. Yeah.
Definitely noticed that as the season has progressed, that elbow has been a liability and has tipped some robots backwards.
Yes.
So there has been some designs to compensate for that, but I think we're eager to see what these two schools have done today.
Exactly.
And we are set to go with round one with our contest today between Rosedale Middle and Stockdale Christian.
All right, driver control in 3, 2, 1, go!
Both teams are able to get their cues right in and lift through. Rosedale with the drop in, they're focusing on the green. They've dropped it in, it is clear and through. 1 point early on. Now, an interesting strategy we've heard from them is the fact that they don't feel necessarily confident that their bot can actually put cubes into the buckets. So they're gonna push, they're gonna stack, but they're gonna wait to see what other colors are coming through. Stockdale Christian trying to back it in. They found themselves into the scoring zone.
Scored themselves. That's
I don't
pretty
think
good.
that counts, and they may have a challenge here because they may be stuck in there for our competition. So their challenge right now.
That could be interesting. Oh,
They're out.
There they are. Oh, and we stacked 3 over here. Oh,
We have maybe our third cube to be stacked over by Rosedale Middle. They've got a 2-0 lead over early on. With about a minute remaining, we are going to have a driver switch. About midway through, they do need to hand off the controls to a second driver.
Yeah, drivers, get ready to switch.
Stockdale Christian was able to push theirs in. They kind of backed in to push theirs with that wide, flat base on the back there. Rosedale very quickly trying to jut around and stack that third cube. It looks
There
like
we
they're
go.
going to be able to
There
do
we
that
go.
very softly.
Good job.
Stockdale Christian still trying to wedge
to
their
get that
second one
second
in.
one in.
That's going to be a tough push.
Yeah, especially on that angle.
Not quite all the way. They've knocked it down. They're making a mess of things here, but they're looking for that right color. Right now, the buckets haven't come into play with 20 seconds left to go. Rosedale with a 3-1 lead so far. One more grab here. They're going to go with a purple. Again, so far, the multipliers have not been a factor. Can they get that last one in? 6 seconds left to go. 5, 4. They're going to get a third layer up if they can drop it. 2, 1. And that will do it.
Didn't do it.
Now let's take a look over in the Stockdale Christian corner. There are 3 cubes, but only one of them
Only
is
one
entirely
scoring.
in.
Yes.
So
The other 2 are on the angle, so they don't count.
at the end of round 1, Rosedale Middle School with a 3-1 lead, and it's not necessarily who wins the most rounds. That actually ends up being our tiebreaker.
Correct.
It's cumulative, so whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds.
That's correct. So 3-1. We'll see what happens next round.
Let's go ahead and start things off with Rosedale and kind of talk a little bit about their approach here. Drivers, Brooklyn and Driver. Driver's not your name, that's just what it says on the name tag. This is Victor. His last name is not Driver either. Although if you were brother and sister, that would make sense. So let's talk a little bit about your strategy. We talked a little bit about waiting for the other team to stack. It became clear to you, apparently, that they weren't going for the buckets here. Did that change how you approach things?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't really noticing anything. I just saw 3 green cubes and I was like, okay, grab, stack, grab, stack.
You were able to work with what was nearby, get those set, and then you kind of made a mad dash towards the center here. What was the kind of mindset as you kind of slammed through and knocked some stacks down?
Well,
Kinda,
it was
like, because kind of how, I don't know, maybe just for some fun, just
It looked like it was so
crush
much
it.
fun. Take that, cube, bomb!
Just
Do the,
crush it.
the Brooklyn punch, bomb! We know that all too
crush
well.
it.
So you've got a 3-1 lead. Do you find yourself going to the second round looking to try to get more points on the board, or you want to kind of play some defense and kind of just check and wait and see how they do?
I'm kind of thinking of more points, but it kind of depends on what she wants to do as well.
Fair play, and of course, collaboration is only effective as its willing participants. 2 points, as we say in sports, the most dangerous lead. Let's go ahead and check in over with Stockdale Christian. Talk to our drivers, Nick and Luke, not related to our other drivers on the site. That's not a last name, ladies and gentlemen. 3 cubes in, however, only 1 point because they weren't entirely within there. Talk about some of the challenges you faced early on with your strategy.
Well, our one of the wires to the motors malfunctioned, and it wouldn't connect, so we couldn't use our lift at all. So we had to resort to our block pusher on the edge, which was a little hard to use since it goes forward, but it's a little hard to use it since it goes back.
You basically had to drive that round backwards. Also a bit of a challenge early on as your bot was stuck in the scoring zone. So what was kind of your mindset and approach, and how did you find yourself escaping from that very dangerous situation?
I tried to use the weight of the claw and the lift arm to try to force myself out.
So that momentum rocking back and forth eventually brought you back over that bump and back into play. At the end of 1 round, Rosedale Middle with a 3-1 lead. We'll be back shortly for round number 2. Hey, welcome back to the AC Electric Arena, downtown Bakersfield. It's the Robot Rumble here on Do the Math. It's round 2 of our contest today between the Rosedale Middle School Bulldogs and the Stockdale Christian Crusaders. 3-1, Rosedale leads going into our second round. A lot of drama and a lot of sweat pouring down the foreheads of our folks from Stockdale Christian. Back here with Nick and Luke, our drivers for the Crusaders, and their robot Lucky, who we learned was named after a pet dog that had sadly passed away back on November 11th. Lucky, we're here for you, brother. But let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that arose in between rounds. You mentioned that a wire dislodged, and that almost became a critical failure for this bot. So what did this look like between rounds in preparing for round 2?
We tried replacing the wire to see if it was the problem with the wire or not, but it seems that it is a problem with either the motor or the cortex.
I noticed that the motor itself seemed to be fairly loose coming out of round 1, so quite a bit of work to tighten that up, brought the Allen wrenches out. Do you feel that the motor is secured and the issue has been addressed?
The motor is tight, yes, but I don't know if that'll fix the wire or not.
So knowing that you may or may not have a claw, how does that change your approach going into round 2 where you find yourself maybe depending on that back wall to ram cubes in, down by 2 cubes?
I guess we'll just have to try and move backwards a little bit. Maybe we can reverse the controls after the second round.
You may have to reverse the controls or even just reverse the way that your brain operates as far as what's right is left and what's left is right. So total shift in directionality possibly for this team from Stockdale Christian. We have a lot to go, and again, Rosedale with a 2-goal lead. It is a cumulative total, so it's not as if the scoreboard wipes out for a brand new round 2. It all adds up, so a big gap to dig out of early on.
Yes.
And Rosedale, you don't necessarily just sit on that 2-point lead. You want to try to do whatever you can to extend it out.
Maximize it. Yes.
So we're set to go here for round 2 between Rosedale Middle and Stockdale Christian.
Driver control in 3, 2, 1, go.
You know, the team from Stockdale Christian redesigned their claw after a collaboration with Garces High over the weekend. This is the first time they've had a lift in competition, but right now it's been all about the push. They've got their first cube in. They know they've got to back it in early on. It doesn't look like that claw's operational quite yet. However, we do have a cube in there for Rosedale as well. So the total right now is 4-2. 1-1 this round. That back rammer's still trying to wedge it in. Let's see if they can get it all the way through. The operational claw for Rosedale Middle School, they're still trying to pick it up and push through. They've got the orange trying to squeeze it in. Now, they've also got kind of a collector, if you look over at Rosedale, where they can bring it in. We've got our second cube in from Stockdale Christian, a 4-3 total, but they've got the lead in this round. If you look at Rosedale Middle, they're able to collect the cube to put it in a good position to pick it up right from underneath. Take advantage of this corner score zone, and they've got 3 points on the board. It's now a 6-3 total, and now a 3-2 lead rather for Stockdale. We've had the driver switch. We're halfway through with 37 seconds left to go here. Now you're not going to be able to get more than one push through into that corner here with 30 seconds left to go. That one is through. We've got another one in the corner. Both teams now have 3 with 1 on the ledge. It's going to come down to who can stack and get another one, and right there is the advantage for Rosedale Middle. Can they pick it up and stack it with 15 seconds left to go? Stockdale Christian down to that rammer. That claw still inoperable. 10 seconds left to go. Can Rosedale even operate their claw with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 final ram? They're not going to be able to get it through in Stockdale Christian, and that will do it for round number 2. Tom. A lot of pushing, this is basically the sumo wrestling version of Robot Rumble.
A Robot Rumble.
So, what did you notice?
We equaled out. So, I don't know if Rosedale Middle was actually trying to feel sorry for Stockdale Christian and not use their arm.
I heavily doubt that pity played any. There's no empathy at the Rumble.
Yeah, I would hope not.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit with Rosedale about their approach here. Rosedale able to get 3 more on the board, 6 total. You took advantage of that far corner. At one point, did that kind of click and come into play? Like, hey, we can go ahead and just push through in that one.
Well, actually, we didn't really have a choice since our
Claw won't close.
it stopped working for a while.
So, at what point in the competition did you notice that the claw became inoperable?
At the beginning.
So, right off the bat, you were able to open and close it. I saw right there a little bit of an adjustment. It did just open up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what?
Oh, no. Maybe it worked the whole time. But that might be something that you start to look at. Are you still able to raise and lower the arm?
Yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's simply the claw that we need to really revisit. So knowing you had no other choice, that came into play. And if you notice, that kind of influenced what Stockdale Christian did as well. 3 points on the board. Your strategy early on was to kind of watch and wait and see what was going on with raising and lowering. And now that you've noticed that their claw has not been a factor at all, how does that change your approach going into round 3?
Well, it seems like theirs was the same kind of as ours, to where we had 2 here, and then they had 2 in there, and then we had 1 and 1, and then in both of those, one was attempted to also go in as well.
So fixing that claw is going to be critical. That might end up making the difference going into round 3. You've got work to do, so take a look at that. Let's check in with our friends over at Stockdale. And Crusaders able to tie the round, which might come into play should you make up this 2-point deficit. Still down by a total of 6-4, but lots of cubes and scoring zones. So, how do you feel that this round was different from round 1?
Well, I guess we focused more on pushing instead of panicking about the claw, and yeah, we just tried our best to. We got more used to pushing it backwards.
With that said, that strategy, it looks like it has a ceiling where you're only going to really maximize into 3 points per round. How significant then, knowing that, is it to make sure that that claw is operable going into round 3, where you realize the only way we're going to be able to do anything is with at least 3 goals?
Well, yeah, it is pretty significant that we do get the claw hopefully up and running in between this and next round. But if we don't, that's what it is, I guess. But we'll try our best, and hopefully we win.
Well, both teams are going to try to bring that best going into round 3. It is 1 victory for Rosedale in a round and then a tie. So it's a 6-4 Rosedale lead. 2 points makes the difference going into round 3. Coming back here at the Do the Math Robot Rumble. Thanks a lot. We're back. It's the Robot Rumble for Do the Math, Rosedale Middle School, and Stockdale Christian. It's round 3. That's what she said. You heard that, right? So right now, going into round 3, Rosedale Middle with a 6-4 lead.
Yep.
They've got 1 win, and then there was 1 tie. So a lot of tiebreakers potentially.
Correct.
But both teams are kind of in the same position with their robot designs right now.
Yes, they are. Yes. The Rosedale Middle School is looking to try to actually make use of their claw, and it will be interesting to see what kind of advancements and changes that Stockdale Christian's made.
Now, Stockdale had a lot of difficulty with that claw. I feel like
did.
it sounds like they've essentially wrapped up any hope that that's going to be able to be operable. So that kind of puts them in as far as like a ceiling for how many points they could really put on the board.
Great.
In the meantime, checking in with Rosedale Middle School before we get things going. So the other school spent a lot of time really working on that claw. I noticed that your warm-up prep strategy involved burning donuts on the floor with your bot and undoing Ritz Bits crackers and then making them like double stuffs. So you guys feel very comfortable. In fact, I noticed that right now, the way that you have your bot positioned, that claw is ready to close and bring in. How comfortable and confident do you feel about the operation of that claw going into round 3?
Pretty good. I mean, we fixed it up during break time, and it's working now.
Yeah, it seems to be working now. Now that we've kind of made adjustments on the brain.
You know that you've got a 2-point lead. You know that essentially the most that Stockdale Christian is going to be able to put up is 3 points. Essentially meaning you're in pretty good shape if you can get 2 in. Does that change your strategy at all, or do you want to just try to see if you can drive the score up as high as you can?
Drive the score up as high as you can.
Try to give yourself as much distance as possible here going into this last round, because you know surrendering that round could put you in a risky spot if this does go to overtime. So it's cumulative. You've got a comfortable lead right now with the circumstances. It's all up to this final round. Let's check it out and see how things go with a spot in the grand final at stake. It's round number 3.
Driver control in 3, 2, 1, go!
Well, Tom, it looks like we've got our first cube in place by Stockdale Christian, as we do with Rosedale Middle.
Got theirs in.
That claw is closing on the
Yes,
cubes.
it
They're able
is.
to bring it through and stack, and that gives them a decided advantage here.
It does.
Looking to nudge it through. They've got it in. And we have our second cube going in as well.
Yes, we do.
Over on Stockdale Christian side. They've got a 2 wheels stuck in their zone, but they're able to maneuver out of it.
Yep.
A third cube coming. Can they get that stacked over on the Rosedale side? And there it is. Not as stable, but I think they're going to kind of let it go right there.
I would imagine.
So it's 3-2 on the cube so far, cumulative right now. We're standing at 9-6 with 1 minute remaining here in round 3. Stockdale Christian looking to make up that ground. It looks like we may have had some issues here where it has tipped over on its front over on the Stockdale side. Can it reposition itself? It has. It's back up. They've still got a chance. One more cube in.
Scored another cube, yeah.
We are at 10-6 Rosedale with 40 seconds left to go. A 4-point lead for the Bulldogs with a spot in the grand final in the line. They're going to try to stack here. We've got an orange cube. They've turned it around. Can they get it into this corner on top of the purple? 30 seconds left to go. Lowering it down. Can it stay? Release. It's on. That's another stacked cube.
That's another cube.
5-point round so far for Rosedale with 20 seconds remaining. We've got 2 cubes in front of Stockdale Christian. What can they do with it? Right now they've got it wedged against the wall. Tough to push that away.
It is.
10 seconds left to go. It's all Bulldogs here as we wrap up round 3. And ladies and gentlemen, that will that will do it.
That'll do it.
A very strong third round.
Yes.
And with a final score of 10-6 with 2 rounds won, Rosedale Middle School, Brooklyn, Victor, they're the winners. They're going to the grand finals in March. So, Brooklyn, Victor, round 3, it all came together. You had the claw going, you had the stacks. How did the first 2 rounds of difficulty, struggles, learning help you bring it together in this third round?
It kind of helped us improve our strategy by learning how to more control the robot and how to get the correct speeds in order to stack, and just how far you have to go into the goal zone to stack.
Now, Brooklyn, you were telling me at the start of this competition, before we went on the air with the show, that this design is actually the stock design. It's the design that Vex Robotics sends out to all the competitors, and you had one little difference, that you made one tiny modification with the claw.
Yeah, so from here, so there was a pre-made claw that we weren't really sure who made it, but there was a pre-made claw that included this and these claws down here. This part of it we added to to extend it for it to fit the cubes, and then also since our robot in the the competitions, it was a little bit too big because of this back here. As you could tell that it was kind of cut off, and then that was this was moved forward as well.
Well, I gotta say, stability was never a factor. There was never any danger of your bot tipping over. That little modification with the claw gave you a little bit of an advantage as far as the ease of grip. There was never a point where it looked like your bot was gonna drop a cube. What's interesting too is that it really kind of changed a little bit of your strategy in regards to the baskets going into the grand finals, where we've seen teams successfully be able to put cubes in baskets. Does that change your strategy going into March as far as potential modifications with your bot, or is your plan to just kind of go with what you've got?
Well, kind of how the rules are played, like if let's just say that this side mainly puts, I don't know, green in their towers, then since we have some green over here, we can take those green, as we did here, and we can stack that color for it to do more points.
So keeping an eye out for that alternate team's strategy mid-course, mid-round, is going to be that approach. Keep an eye out for that in our grand finals. But Rosedale Middle School, the Bulldogs, they're going to be there. Chipman's going to be there. Rio Bravo Greeley's going to be there. We have one more spot available. Who's it going to be? Join us in February for the final spot in the Do the Math Robot Rumble Grand Final at stake. Thanks to both of our schools, Stockdale Christian and Rosedale Middle, for joining us this afternoon. We've got one more big showdown left before that grand final. We hope to see you then.